Horsford's Building Center on Ziggett and Nevis. Don't miss out on the year's best time to buy tools. Get 25% off on selected tools store-wide. Hundreds of tools on sale, slash by 25%. 25% off on tools for this April Tools Month at Horsford's Building Center on Ziggett and Nevis. The promotion ends April 30th. Horsford's Building Center, the Federation's favorite home improvement store. Some exclusions apply. See stores for details.
Good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of Voices here on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for this afternoon's segment, Kevon Brown. We got a little late start today because the Premier of Nevis had his monthly press conference, and we absolutely had to bring that coverage. This afternoon, I am joined with Ras Sankofa of the Gideon Force Farms Cooperative. Ras Agard, apologies. Ras Agard. You were supposed to be joined with Sankofa, but yes, so we're joined with Ras Agard of the Gideon Force Farms Cooperative, and today we're going to be speaking about increasing the integration of agriculture into society. Ras Agard?
Yes, greetings, listeners. Give thanks to be here. Right, so I'm Ras Agard. I'm a member of the Gideon Force Cooperative in Old Road. We are situated down there in the Wingfield Extension area, and I would like to even say at this point that this coming Sunday, the 2nd of May, we will be having our third organic market, so I'm inviting everyone to visit and be a part of this celebration. In terms of location, it's above the virtual high school area. There will be signs to direct you directly to the farm. We'll be starting there at 1 p.m. until somewhere down in Sunset area. So we're inviting everybody to be a part of this organic market, and I expect to see a whole lot of faces there like Kevon and so on.
I probably will be there. Okay, so can we get into the topic?
Right. As we know, agriculture has been basically the backbone for everything that we are dealing with in society, from medication to clothes to food, everything, whether it is plant-based, animal-based, sea food. You know, we have like cod liver oil and so on coming from the sea. So agriculture and fishing is basically technically already integrated into everything that we've been doing. However, it is still being sidelined as some kind of demeaning profession. So we find that over time, persons who like go and deal with agriculture, it may be just because they may not have had the certification to go teach or to be in some sort of other business. So it's like just something to fall back on. So it's not really you would say an equal valid profession compared to the other professions that we have going on in society. And this is so based on, in my view, based on coming out of slavery. And we could see this being reflected in the fact that when we moved away, for instance, from the sugar industry, we have been seeing that persons are being sending their children not to become like agriculture scientists and stuff like that, but more like becoming a dentist, a lawyer, a doctor, and stuff like that. And then in the education system, we know of incidents where teachers have been telling children, based like on a form of punishment, that, you know, if they're not academically inclined, they may just find themselves with their hand in the dirt. And this is showing that our people have not really accepted the fact that agriculture need to be the primary thing in society in terms of development. So we seem to prefer to import food, basically everything that we import, things that we can grow here, process here, and so on. So the conversation is that we need to get that integration be recognized to the point of profession. And when we talk about profession here, we're not just talking about being a farmer, but we're talking about farmers, fishers, ranchers, agriculture managers, agriculture inspectors, agriculture engineers, food scientists, water engineers, water resource specialists, environmental engineers, natural science managers, graders, sorters. There's a whole lot, right?
Yes.
So if we're gonna be serious about agriculture, it's not just about having a TV program and so on and saying we can support agriculture, but I'm talking from even the level of the education system, where one, you have to reach out to those teachers for that sort of education, and sometimes it may not have to be a formal education. Sometimes just the politicians themselves can actually assist into that movement, because sometimes it's like what they say is what goes and what people follow. But because the leaders themselves are a product of that mindset that seem to think that agriculture is some sort of demeaning profession, they will not come out and say that, but by actions, by policies, by everything that they're doing towards agriculture, you can see clearly that agriculture is not treated as a normal, valid profession to look towards to.
In my experience, and I'm speaking specifically from my experience, you are correct that there has always been a push towards more academics. Right. For instance, I think when I was younger, one of the professions I wanted to go into, it's still academic, but because it was not widely popular back when I wanted to do it, I was told you can't make no money off of that. Right. I wanted to get in psychology because I was very interested in observing people and why they behave the way they behave. Right. And I was told by many people in my family that is not a profession you're going to make money here.
Exactly.
And I shifted to various different professions. Writing, I love writing, novel writing.
That's right.
You can't make money with that here. You need to switch perspectives. And here I am at a radio station, shifting my perspective. I write every day, not exactly the stories I want to write. But apart from that, you are right, there has been a push towards academics, and vocational or trade work for some reason took a back seat, a very big back seat. And we got away from apprenticeships, doing apprenticeships with actual farmers, doing apprenticeship with welders and carpenters. Right. We are importing everything, as you said. So how do you imagine we fix that?
Right. I think this begins with the two most impactful areas, and that is education and the leadership of the country. And the leadership of the country is either that we have to educate them in the matter, or we have to make sure that when we are electing leaders, we may have to change the criteria in terms of being a candidate, and how we're going to do that, that will probably be something we do on the next program to talk about that. But definitely to just elect someone because they decide to be a candidate and not knowing whether or not they have the country at heart in terms of the people's development and what's not. I'll give you an example. We have two fisheries complex in St. Kitts, and the fishing industry is the same. So you're having more infrastructure put in place, but the development of the people is not being sought after. So the fishermen going back out in the same little boat that they normally go to, they come in with their catch and they want to hustle them off the same way that they normally want to. And this is the kind of mindset that we have not only in the fishing, but also into the farming and even the raising of animals, so agriculture in a sense. This is not a particular set of people. It's just the mindset of the general populace that actually have this kind of behavior towards fishing and agriculture on a whole.
So as it pertains to the fishing, you want to, I guess, have the fishermen who operate on an individual basis to work more with the fisheries departments and the fisheries complex. To what end?
Well, you see, whatever reason the fisheries complex was put there for, in terms of utilizing it, more meaning the fishermen, most of the fishermen, as you could still see, they would probably go down by the market and pull up their little boats and see what they could get sell. And I've seen also, even up by the fisheries here in Newtown area, that the fishermen would actually go to the back of the building and sell the fish themselves, instead of walking along with the fisheries and what they're supposed to do.
I think I've observed something similar in Old Road when I'm going on my way home, if I'm in a bus or whatever.
Well, I'm from Old Road, so I don't even want to say that.
Well, I'm from Bertel, so right down the road.
Okay.
But yeah, I would see somebody selling their fish right out
Right.
outside of the fisheries.
Right. So this is the mindset that we are dealing with. And now this mindset is not easily changed. So to me, in terms of vision, the leadership now would play a critical role to make sure that this is now at its starting point in the education system. Because once it's in the education system, and there might be people who calling in later and say, well, yes, it's in the education system. And it is, because we actually have a subject named agriculture. However, it is not being pushed the way that it would be pushed to say, well, children go study and become an accountant, or to become a doctor, a lawyer, or anything like that. So even though there's a subject they call agriculture, and even though, mind you, that the teachers may be passionate about agriculture, you could see the outcome for yourself. So the fact that you could see the result of it, meaning that when the CFBC students go to CFBC, I hardly, if I don't recall ever hearing anyone gone there to study to be any form of agriculture scientist or anything like that. So I don't know what they have there at CFBC to deal with agriculture. I don't know also what have been the push from the schools, but even though I may not know what they have there, you could see the outcome. You could see what the students them are going after. So the fact that these are the things that they're going after, you could see clearly what is being promoted. So what is being promoted is what they will go after. So if the teachers are basically telling the children, basically pushing them to be more into the academics and not so much into the skilled area, then they're definitely going to push in that direction. And one of the things that I think is a weakness in our leadership is that we're not even collaborating with these institutions to at least try to put certain things in place to say, well, okay, you know what, St. Kitts is short on engineers. So maybe we should try to push that into the CFBC and different studies and so on. We may be short on, different areas that may be able to facilitate our society to help bring us into more in-depth agriculture and so on. So we're not seeing any push from the education system, whether from the primary school to the high school to the college and even after university. We're not seeing much of that. And even though we have a few persons here who may have gone to the university to study certain things with agriculture, they themselves has been very relaxed into the actual ministry and not even pushing that agenda. Matter of fact, even having conversation with some workers from agriculture, they're against the idea. They think that agriculture cannot sustain us. We must eat food. I think that we must eat food in order for the human race to actually carry on. We must eat food. We don't have to have internet and cell phones and all that. These are luxuries. These are excess that we have with us. Now, you think that if everybody in St. Kitts become a millionaire, the borders close because of this pandemic or next pandemic show up, the borders close, everybody a millionaire, you have no farmers, you have no fishers. What are we going to spend the money buying? We're going to eat the cell phone and go buy some clothes and eat them and what's not.
And as we saw during the pandemic when we were shut down, it was harder to bring in food because it was
Exactly.
more expensive and it took way longer.
Exactly. So one of the things is that you find that with this happening and with even our leaders saying things, and I would even want to say pretend, saying things about agriculture and even talking money about agriculture, what we need to do is to measure stuff is just look at what is happening. Now, when the pandemic came around, there was big talk about agriculture. Have you seen, have you felt, have you heard anything that is what has been impactful from the leadership of the country in terms of making sure that agriculture is, one, secure, like food security, has it moved anywhere? Absolutely not. Now, there have been no legislative framework put in place to secure market for the farmers and fishers and what's not. But there's a little problem, even though I'm saying this, there's a little problem because remember earlier we spoke about the mindset. That mindset, if it remained the same, even if you secure the market, it may not have the right impact that you might be looking for because the mindset itself must change. The mindset have to come to an understanding that agriculture is an equal and valid profession just as any other profession. That have to change. That have to be something that our people must realize. If that don't change, then even if the government go ahead and secure markets, for instance, the sugar industry, people moved away from that. So it was not even the government to say, well, we can just blame the government for that. But the people actually decided like they ain't cutting no cane no more. They want different professions. So what we had to do, we had to import help. And while importing help, I guess there was also a move to try to automate the industry a little bit. And eventually we just close it down. And we don't, right now we have to import sugar. So we don't even have a small portion of the industry left back to say, well, okay, we'll just keep something in place. We'll fully automate it, so you have limited human resource dealing there. Just make it as automated as possible, and we could at least have some sugar here, not just for St. Kitts, but even for regional countries that you could probably do some exactly. Yeah. So we left nothing. Now we use the truck to carry around tourists, as everything seemed to be about tourism. Tourism is not a new construct or anything like that. For the listeners, even in the Bible days, even go way back in Genesis, tourism was always a part of the human through time. You have never been absent. But we're treating it like it's this new thing that just happened, and therefore we have to sacrifice our people, our morality, everything, just to make sure that we're dealing with tourism. It's not a new concept. We have tourism in different forms. We have educational tourism, like Ross universities and what's not. I might be calling this wrong, but I'll say, look, for instance, the Football Association. They get money from FIFA. That's money coming into the country. So that's like sport tourism, So
you are right to call. There is such a thing as sports tourism because cricket is going to be playing.
CPL,
CPL
sport tourism. So you have some of these things that we should at least try to help up. I understand that they had some issues with the Football Association some time back, but in terms of like having games and what's not. So to me, you shouldn't be pressuring your source like that. These are good sources of revenue coming into the country. And the fact that you're not getting the boats and the plane load of people to come in to take them around the island, then you have to look at these other areas. And in terms of our survival itself, because I'm hearing that the vaccine is for our survival. I'm not hearing it's about our food. It's not about our food security, it's about vaccine. What is the whole attempt of that? Vaccinate the people, we get a certain amount vaccinated, and then we could open back the doors and have a lot of asymptomatic people running around in our country, basically maybe sick, and our healthy people who was healthy here all the time are now in this predicament, and we're doing it all in the name of what? Tourism. That to me is a major sacrifice that we are attempting to make, and then in some sense even not forcing by any legislative issue, but using your bully pulpit to tell people to do these things. Now, you don't think the bully pulpit should be used to say, let's plant some food, let's deal with agriculture, let's deal with fishing, let's upgrade the whole thing, let's educate the people a little more, let's try to get the students them to at least be some of these engineers that would be needed for this thing. And that which we don't have, this is what we should import if we don't have. Some of those professions that I mentioned earlier, if we don't have those professions here, then we import those professions for now. And while they're here,
have them train our people.
Maybe our people gone off to study to become that. So you have it on more like a contractual basis where they'll just be here for a short time and then you just move that. And it's a whole lot of professions here. You heard me list them just now.
Yes.
And even though we may have one or two of them there, these are actual good professions to be in and to help us to elevate this agriculture that we have in our society, agriculture and fishing, that is. I mean, why don't we have a fishing boat as big as the Carib Breeze going out to catch fish for a whole week and come back?
Well, as we're talking about education, I wanted to ask you about two questions, probably.
Yeah.
What have been the attempts from various agriculture cooperatives, or maybe just specifically towards I guess, getting into the schools and maybe doing seminars with students or attending some of the actual agriculture classes to give them a more practical, real-life, local perspective on what agriculture means?
Everything you're saying there, we have already started that work. A matter of fact, the last school we had at our farm visiting was the Saddlers High School. We had, I think we had all the other high schools already passed through our farm visiting and looking at what we are doing. And of course, we are promoting and encouraging, and even in some senses helping people with backyard gardens. Of course, the politicians will come and say, yeah, they're encouraging backyard gardening, and they went to this and went to that. But we're not. This is not just talk. This is let's do this, you know. And one of our biggest hurdle in doing some of these may just well be the government. We're not really getting the kind of support from the government in order to do some of the things that we're doing. I could give you an example. In this organic market that we're having, you know, we normally send out letters, try to get some donations and different things and so on. And something like maybe tents and so on, we may try to see what we could get from agriculture. And the last one we had, we didn't get no help. This one, we have not gotten any response because we keep writing like, okay, could you all just lend us a tent for the day? And we normally don't get the support, even though the tents are there sitting down not being used. So government may just well be an obstacle into this integration that we're trying to elevate in terms of agriculture. I don't know if agriculture want to take the lead on doing it. Hey, take the lead and do it, because we don't mind, we just want it to be done. And we're here, we are promoting this conversation here that we're doing today is part of that outreach to have this conversation with the country and with who are listening to show that, you know, we're ready to move forward with agriculture. Matter of fact, in the absence of tourism, let's do some agriculture. Let's look at things that are being imported. Let's see if out of that maybe $500 million import bill, could we cut into that and maybe have maybe 1 or 2 million circulating back here into the country? You know, why we're not looking at these options? Why we prefer to force our people to go take a vaccine that we don't know for sure what the outcome going to be? You know, making a kind of weird sacrifice there. Why are we not doing that? Is that, in your view, as a youngster, is that leadership? Or put you in a spot. Put you in a spot.
Tie me right up. I have my own misgivings with leadership. I'm not going to get into it because we're going to spend the entire afternoon here. But that leads me to another question,
Yes.
or a little deviation.
Yeah.
What has been the community's response to your endeavors to try and more legitimize agriculture and not put it on the front burner instead of it being on the back burner? What's the support like from community, apart from government?
Right.
Community.
Well, when we have these organic markets, we normally see a very good support of showing, you know, people come around and they get involved, they purchase stuff, they look to see what we're doing. And we always get a good sound from them into saying, well, you know, you are doing a good thing. We have not heard one negative sound towards what we're doing in terms of the organic market, in terms of dealing with the community itself. Like, besides the organic market, we too would get good sounds from them. But I personally believe that we can do more. It's just that we kind of low on manpower. And again, sometimes we don't get the support that we would like. And once we get good support, we normally give thanks to the PEP program because they work with us. The YES program work with us much better though. We had up to like 15 workers on the farm, but then something strange happened. The workers were taken from the farm and some of them put on the road to cut grass and so on. I don't know if cutting grass on the side of the road is something that could generate revenue. I have no idea what is the mindset there, but I think that planting food is actually a more critical thing to get at. But the community on a whole, they always respond favorably to what we are doing. We sometimes may not even to be able to keep up with some of the orders that we may be trying to deal with, and then there are times that the orders may be kind of low and what's not. But we do definitely have a good response from the community.
And what about youth in the community? Do you currently have any young apprentices working with y'all?
Well, not directly from the community that we are functioning in, but island wide, yeah, we actually do have young persons be involved into the whole Gideon. Matter of fact, no, let me not say that, because yes, we do have some young people involved from the actual Old Road community itself. But on a general scale, it's island-wide. We accept anyone who come around who have a good moral concept, because we don't really like certain immoralities around the farm, you know.
Right. Do you have any idea of the number of people, or that number escapes you at this
in terms of like people who works there?
People who work there and the specifically the youngsters in the community.
Well, our even the membership of our COP have a few, maybe 2 or 3 youths involved, and the membership is 15, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's about 15 members and the membership of the cooperative, and we have about maybe two or 3 youths who are part of that membership. In terms of working on the farm, we have I think we have 1 young person. By the way, what do you consider to be young? Because that might be the issue. I don't know. Under 35?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Well, under 35, we may have like 2.
Okay.
Yeah, out of the 5, I think we have about 5 persons from on the PEP program, and out of that 5, we may have about 2 under 35.
Okay. All right. And another question, what's the relationship like with the private sector? Because we spoke about government and community, but what about private sector? Has there been any initiatives to engage with the private sector, and how's that going?
Yes, definitely. Before the pandemic, you know, we would have we would have had places like Serendipity. There's a restaurant across the road up here in Yutong area. So yeah, we actually a part of moving into the private sector to get them to be a part of this initiative that we're dealing with, promoting organic farming, for organic agriculture generally. So yes, matter of fact, it's more private sector. We are more private sector based in terms of making our monies than anything to do with government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe private sector is the way to go.
Yeah. Well, we have noticed that. The problem with that, though, is that private sector is also competing with themselves. So and then because we don't have anything, like for instance, example, the supermarket's gonna order the food that we grow, right? And some persons don't care whether or not the food is organic or not. Some people don't even care that the food that they buy maybe from these major supermarkets may be food that are heavily sprayed with stuff that cause cancer and stuff like that.
And preservatives.
Right. Exactly, which we don't use at all. So they may see like a tomato cost, say $2 in one of these major supermarkets, and maybe our tomato might cost $2.50. They prefer to buy they're just looking at the price. They don't understand, well, it's not just about the price. You're getting an organic tomato. Tastes better, is healthier, and you don't run the risk of these pesticide and causing cancer agents that be a part of that.
You brought up one of the I think the most basic debates as it pertains to organic versus supermarket food because of the pricing. A lot of people they for some reason refuse to buy organic or buy local because the local would be more expensive than the supermarket, and because they're so focused on the pricing and it being cheaper and them trying to survive, they think about the immediate surviving, the cost, spending less money, instead of the lengthy, the more long-term thing of ridding your body or not bringing in such preservatives or pesticides or anything that helps to keep these produce stay into their body, which causes illnesses and different things. So that's a debate that I think people regularly deal with on a regular basis.
Well, I don't even think it's just in food, even in furniture and other things. Somehow, I guess, this could even be maybe a conversation we could have some other time as to what really causes our mindset to be the way it is in terms of not readily wanting to support our local people in anything that we do. It's only like sometimes it happened, but there is no real. Okay, for instance, if like you have Chinese here who have supermarkets and different things set up and so on, and people sometimes want to like say, well, if the Chinese could this and the Chinese could that, and what's not, why we can't this and why we can't that. And one of the big differences that they don't seem to understand is that when these people come to set up shop, they come to set up shop fully financed. When Kevin decide, well, you know, he's going to probably open a supermarket, he may or may not go get a loan to do that. And even if he do get a loan to do that, sometime based on the loan and whatever, he may still have to be there trying to see how he could manipulate this and manipulate that just to get it to work.
Or try to get investors.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So it's not equal. It's not equal in terms of setting up shop, because these guys come even right down to the remote control in the hand, already being funded. So everything is funded and is easy once they get land lease or building buy and whatever. They set up shop. Have you ever seen any Chinese investment in terms of what they're doing, whether hotels, supermarkets stall because they seem to be a financial issue with them?
No, I think,
Everything is fully financed.
and even the development that's happening over, I think that's a labor issue and not necessarily a finance
Right.
issue.
So the Chinese have been around for over 5,000 years, mastering certain things right down to the very smell of food. That's why wherever a Chinese restaurant open, it never lacking customers. They don't master these things, and so there is not to compete with them in that aspect. What the competing aspect should be is that the persons who got to buy stuff, these are the people who are supposed to make that decision. So if Kevin have his supermarket and these foreigners have their supermarket, but our local people would prefer to go by the foreigner. Now, there could be a lot of different issues as to why, because sometimes Kevin's attitude towards his local people may not be the best, and I've seen that. So maybe the little competition is good to at least show the local how to operate, how to do their stuff. Like, for instance, a lot of the supermarkets you go by here, they're always out of something. Even the hardware stores, they're always out of something. When you go by the Chinese, they don't. I don't even think they ever out of anything unless maybe during the pandemic something didn't come in. So it's like if they're selling this, it's going to always be there. Our local people, on the other hand, seem to have a different way of dealing with things, and then sometimes it frustrates the public, and then they just go to the foreigner. So I understand all of that. But what I'm saying that to settle is that it is still in the hands of the general public to kind of decide that for the general public. So it is for the person, the businessman, woman who is doing that business, have to understand that work ethics go a long way. And that seems to be something lacking in our local structure when it comes to business.
Okay. And do you have any idea, well, what do you think that can be done differently to remedy that, to fix it?
I think that, again, I must always say, let me start to put agriculture in the school as a serious thing. Let our leaders show and not talk about helping agriculture. Let us see it. Let us not hear about $15 million being this and let us actually see and feel the impact of that. Because if you don't educate the people, educate yourself, then pumping money into something that is basically dead by the mindset of the people would maybe be a waste of time. You know, I mean, they could get Gideon one of that $1 million out of the 15 and see what we do with it. Of course, we would enhance the whole thing. But, you know, we're Rasta people, and, you know, that's a problem right there, number one. So, but yeah, the encouragement about agriculture is not, you see, it's not even just about the revenue or the economics of the country, but it's also about the health of the people. Because the health of the people should be number one. And then the economics can be number two. Because if the economics is number one and the people are not healthy, how does it operate? Because if you're unhealthy, more than likely you're not going to work well. But if you're healthy, of course, you could put in a little bit more work. Your ideas might be flowing, because unhealthy people also mean that eventually they would have unhealthy brains. So they may not be thinking and coming up with innovative concepts and ideas how we gonna go forward. I mean, like for instance, today when you say farming to the youths, the image that probably come in the mind is a hoe and a pick. It's not about, maybe I could fly a drone over the area and water this area. Maybe I could do some more research and see more about the soil and different things. So the imagery of agriculture and fishing have taken a certain tone that is not attractive. So to be more innovative, I think that also may be something that can help to reshape the whole thing. But the education, the leadership, I think once those two start the rollout, I think that the general public will just fall in line. So to me, that's the direction we need to go. We need to go towards the education system and not just to say, well, you're teaching agriculture in school. The teachers themselves have to have that passion to actually promote it to the point where the children don't just come out and want to be a doctor, a lawyer, and whatever, but want to be one of these things that you see me raise here. Want to be an agriculture engineer, want to be agriculture managers, water engineers, water resource specialists, environmental engineers. These are what we want to promote in the school so that once we have that set of professions here helping to guide that process, then everything can go much better. I mean, children should actually be arguing to want to do these things.
Right.
But we're not having any of that. We have, I believe we have a whole lot of doctors and lawyers in St. Kitts already, and there are persons who are still going away to be lawyers and doctors. So here we have, and maybe I should just list them out again so whoever listening could probably try to get the children involved. But starting from the top, we have farmers, fishers, ranchers, agriculture managers, agriculture inspectors, agriculture engineers, food scientists, water engineers, water resource specialists, environmental engineers, natural science managers, graders and sorters.
Well, you raised a good point earlier about possibly bringing in some of those people to train individuals.
Right.
Have you guys reached out to anyone who specializes, or maybe they exist already on island, but reached out to somebody who could possibly teach a seminar or something that could help advance the agriculture product already existing here, so that maybe you could?
Not specifically. What we do. We work along closely with the Taiwanese, for instance, and as to what expertise they have into their fold, we're not so sure yet. But these are areas we could probably go further on and see if we could even get them, since they're already here, to at least help in these areas in terms of training and what's not, and at least start the ball rolling there to make sure that we have that type of manpower available. And in the meantime, we could have our children scrambling all over the world to become specialists in these areas, and that way they come back and then, because what the Taiwanese do, they start stuff with us, and then when everything is all right, they just hand it over to us and we go forward. So we want, when they hand over these things now, that we just not only continue, but enhance the whole thing going forward.
Absolutely. And earlier you spoke about the organic market that's happening this Sunday,
Yes.
Above the Verchilles High School. Are there going to be any demonstrations at the market? Because I know sometimes you do local farmers, they do byproducts of whatever they're growing. They would either do drinks.
Agro-processing?
Yeah, agro-processing. Are there going to be any
Well, we definitely will be having a little bit of that, but we're also inviting other persons to come and sell their organic produce and what's not. We're going to have persons there selling, for instance, cannabis oil, and we have persons there selling locally made soap and shampoos, and so definitely the agro-processing market and exposing at least that natural organic thing, that we will have some of those persons doing that. But Gideon Force Farm itself is not fully yet involved in agro-processing. But we are always collaborating with those natural organic agro-processors and invite them to be a part of the whole organic market.
Yeah, the reason why I brought that up is because I thought that would have been a good education platform.
Yeah.
Especially not necessarily just for young people, but for anyone in the community who's interested. They could get some much needed information on how to process certain things in different ways, as a push to eat local and eat more organic.
Yeah, definitely. But we're definitely going to have local drinks. We stay away from the breweries type drink because we promote more instead of carbonated beverages. I'm not saying don't drink carbonated beverage, but you know, for us it's a choice that we prefer to use the plant-based food to make our drinks, whether it be from the fruits or the vegetables. We make local drinks, and those drinks would be on sale. Definitely, we'll also have food on sale. So come and get your little ital and what's not. So we're gonna have that. We're also gonna have a side show where they have a couple of people gonna be there, maybe singing some songs and what's not. But that's not the focus at all.
Right.
That's just a side entertainment. The focus is the actual organic market in terms of food and drink and so on. We're not gonna be selling any fish either. It's just more vegan stuff.
More vegan stuff, understood. Well, if you have any questions or comments or concerns that you wish to bring up to Ras Agard while we have him here, please feel free to call in. The numbers are 466-0989, 662-0989, or 762-0989. But before that, we'll take a quick break and hear from our sponsors, and then we'll come back and speak more about integrating agriculture more into the society.
Here are your Horsford's Value Mart IGA Value Club Blue Tag specials from April 26th through May 2nd. Western oils, $9.99 each. Essential Everyday or IGA canned fruit, $6.99. Essential Everyday salad dressings, $6.99. IGA or Essential Everyday popcorn, 3-pack, $4.95. Yoplait yogurt, $3.39. Eggo waffles, $11.99. And now our very low weekly value deals. Essential Everyday spiral and shells, $1.79. Langer's apple juice, $6.99. Kellogg's cereal, $9.99. Hunt's spaghetti sauces, $4.99. Stone Ridge ice cream, $16.99. Arm & Hammer laundry detergent, just $14.99. Shop smart, shop Value Mart. Sea listo y haga sus compras aquí a Value Mart.
Everything's gotta go. Horsford's Automotive, everything gotta go. Clearance sale is happening now. All 2018, 2019, and 2020 models gotta go. Yes, come to Horsford's Automotive and get $10,000 off select 2020 models. That's right. Horsford's Automotive is making room for 2021 by offering $10,000 off select 2020 models. And that's not all. Come now and get 0% down payment. No payment until May 2021. $500 in free groceries, free servicing for 1 year, free bill of sale, free tinting, free registration, free accessories, and free licensing. Horsford's Automotive, everything gotta go clearance sale. The biggest clearance sale event of the year. Select 2020 vehicles, price to go. Everything gotta go. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
And we're back. Welcome back to Voices on 98.9. We have a caller. Let's go right into it. Caller, you're live on Voices. Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Brown.
Hi, good afternoon, Miss Henry.
How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
Oh, you're giving God thanks, man. You're listening to Ras Agard. Good afternoon, Ras
Yeah,
Agard.
greetings, Miss Henry. Long time no see.
Long time, shame. I say he gave you my message. I would like to get some sorrel and some greens and stuff. I am buying. Let me say I am buying. I want to buy it from
Good
the
customers
farm.
here, Kevin.
Yes.
You have sorrel still?
I'll have to check with the guys and see.
Yeah, Ras, I come and tell me, say, I don't tell it, Ras Agard, you know.
Yeah.
I tell him to tell you. You could take them to the center and the money, bring them, and I pay you.
Definitely.
You know, I pay.
Definitely.
Now, some of the things you were saying, though, you know, I keep saying to people, and to the Rastas. You know what you want, and you have your children in high school and things like that. You should be teaching them and encouraging them to pursue it. And they do agriculture at greenhouse, what you call it, aquaculture. At CFBC, I know they used to. You know, maybe you need to actively link up with them. And the robotics team, I recall in one of their competitions, they had to design some robotic thing to deal with agriculture. So maybe what you need to do is to get in contact with the people who are actively involved. A lot of people here, you know, and you made some statements which need modifying. Agriculture is not totally controlled by people who we say can't go to study. A lot of the profession, you know, that we don't acquaint ourselves. I show you know Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark was a teacher. Mr. Clark, Mr. James, a number of agriculture teachers who are in York Basti High School. Run farms, and they should be, you know, these are examples that you can show your children. You see that man down there selling the yam and stuff? He was an agriculture science teacher at high school. There are examples that you can show. And so encourage your people. The things you want are in your house, you know. The Bible says so, what you have in your hand. Some of the young men around you, push them to get the education so they can go off. There's this school in Trinidad. Most of these would have gone to Guyana as a thing where they can get scholarships. The Taiwanese, because I work along with them, I used to do, you know, they are actively engaged, and you have AICA. There's so many other agencies and things to which you can put your people to train them, hands-on, on-the-job training, to get the kind of the skills that you are looking for. So until we do that, we're waiting for somebody. You know, so use the services. And organic, my father we still have we had mountain ground and lowland ground. Organic farming is nothing new, you know, on that we call it so now. You know, it sounds like something new. All the old farmers with the hoe and the machete is organic farming they were doing. There was never fertilizer added to the thing, because I can tell you, because I used to have to go mountain too. So maybe instead of organic, this is a natural. Because organic sound like you do something to the things, you know? People's perception. But organic, and I am sure that a lot of the stuff that is being sold is still organic. But you have to also remember that when people's income is, the choice between organic and non-organic becomes non-existent. If they only have this amount to spend, and you, and you come with your organic, you know, you got to try and strike a balance. For the middle class and the professionals, it makes a difference. Because they want to think about health and all of that, you know. So I am saying to the organic farmers, be aware that you are dealing with people who are very low income. If you want to cater to the professionals and so, do it. They can be your main market. You'll make a good living. So anyway, I am looking up for my stuff. I tell you the whole nation.
Yeah, we have the sorrel. I just got a message there. We have the sorrel, so we're gonna set you up shortly.
Brown, you hear that?
Yes, I hear that.
But you don't know me, you know. I tell the whole nation. What your farm name?
Gideon Force Farm.
Gideon Force Farm will not deliver to me. Anyway, I wish you all the best. And how is the weather treating you all?
We're giving thanks for it.
You have water. You have a irrigation system.
Yes.
Are you going good?
Yes, we're going good. We could be
Yes,
going
so stop
better.
the balling.
We want you to help. You could probably invest some
Go
your retirement funds into Gideon. Become a member
Yeah,
of our
man,
club.
I would, we can just drop the contract.
Okay then.
Business is business.
All
No
right.
friendship is business.
All right. Thank you, caller. Regular Miss Henry, thank you so much for contributing to the call. But yes, we're continuing the conversation on agriculture. And one of the things we were speaking of on air are some of the produce that is grown here on St. Kitts that is in abundance, however, isn't being maybe as sold as much as it probably should. Could you speak a little bit towards that?
Right. Well, to word it a little different still is to say that a lot of this stuff that is being imported, we can grow here. And sometimes because the supermarkets are allowed to bring in those same produce, it then become an issue, getting them sold. So farmers are being put in this position where everything is a side hustle. And so, they'll probably go on the street and do a little side hustle and what's not. And this is something like when I speak about the leadership is that, if you collaborate well enough with the farmers and what's not, even though you have the supermarkets bringing in these produce, you could kind of limit it. You could not, if like, for instance, I think we mentioned about like tomatoes off here. And let's say, for instance, they're bringing in this amount of tomatoes every month or whatever the case may be, or every few months. You could always collaborate better with your farmers and have them grow the tomatoes and then not issue a license for the supermarkets to bring in any tomatoes. That kind of way, you're kind of forcing the hand of the supermarket to buy the local tomatoes and you're basically providing market for your farmers. And tomatoes is only one example. There's so many other food that is being imported that we can grow. And Ms. Henry spoke about the organic market being something of old, and she is right, but a lot of persons today are not farming organic. There's a lot of pesticides and different things being used. So
We have a caller. Caller, you're live on Voices. Good afternoon.
Yes, me again.
Yes.
I want to clarify something. Now, when you join the WTO, you cannot restrict entrance to goods. I went to India in 1995, and there was the man who was the former head of the WTO, and he was saying, talk about tarification. One way of restricting the entry of goods is to put a tariff on them. That's all they have to do, The tariff makes the good more expensive. And therefore it will give our people a chance to compete. You see like what the U.S. with China? You can't stop them from coming in once you join WTO. But you can use tarification, this called. And maybe what you ought to do is encourage the government. You go through the list of the goods and you decide which goods you want to put a tariff so that when the goods come in, maybe you put a 25% or whatever tariff on them, that would make them equal to or more expensive than the local product. That's what you should be aiming at. Now, these trade things that our government signed, the one with Brazil, I forgot the name of it. But it allows, they said, free entry of the Brazilian goods into our economy. But we're having difficulty getting into their own, but you already signed the thing. So what we have going on now is like the Brazilian pork and the chicken coming in and shutting down our industry. So that sometimes these things need to be known or pointed out to our trade department. Because sometimes some people really, they don't know, you know. It might sound funny, but some of them were never exposed to certain things. So they go ahead and they sign these bilateral agreements that work against us. And I went to another place in India where the Dutch were trying to bring in the milk. And I went to Gujarat. And there is a thing called from a trickle to a river. And this man, all of them are telling big up in WTO. And what they do, the Dutch want to bring in milk powder and all of that. And they fought against it. Tell the government you can't bring in this, you can't bring in milk powder, you can't this and that. You know? And they get the government to put ban or to find some kind of other reason. You understand? So our people have got to learn to negotiate. So look, our farmers are suffering, therefore. So the discussion sometimes has to be held with maybe the U.S. Trade Department rather than just the importer. You see where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Negotiate with the government from the countries from which these things come. So when you want to have your discussion, have it along those lines. I don't understand. Oh, you can't bring in. You can't bring in. They could take you to WTO. But you are allowed to put tariff on the goods. And you could find some kind of reason you could give to put on tariff. All right then.
Thank you very much, Ms. Henry. And I took one point, one of the points that I got from Ms. Henry is I agree that maybe one of the things that could be done is there could be a consensus between local farmers and local cooperatives to go to government and present a proposal where they would supply these specific goods to private sector and supermarkets if they put tariffs on those goods coming into the country, and that way that's a direct impact on agriculture. That is a direct way to support the agricultural product by making the locally grown products the focus.
Right. And I'm in agreement with all of that because at the end of the day, the conversation was really trying to bring out to that some of these things are actually in the hands of the government, and then some of these things are in the hands of the people. But at the end of it all is about the mindset of the people in general. So whether it's going to be tariff or whether it's going to be non-issuance of license to bring in certain products at certain points, that is in the hands of the government, which they can do to do that. But the meat, the real part of this matter, in my opinion, is about the education to the general public concerning agriculture and fishing. That to me is like the area that I think that it can go and have greater impact. Maybe not immediately impacted in that sense, but we're talking about our future generation and their survival. So it's not to say that some of these things can't be done. Yeah, of course, do them. Anything that can actually help to benefit agriculture going forward, yeah, I'm a part of that. Especially though in the sense of organic. Like for instance, raising animals. We have people here who are raising sheep, goat, cattle and stuff like that. And
Continue.
we are seeing like, you know, the sheep them all over the street, the goats them all over the street, cattle used to be all over the street. So there is no proper setup for even raising animals. The best part I see set up proper for raising animals is raising pigs. Even though that's something that we're against in terms of eating, but the pigs have the best setup.
All right.
But there's no proper setup for the sheep, the goats, the cattle, and what's not. And if this, even for talking into the whole scheme of things, in terms of agro-processing, which is added to the whole agriculture experience, you know, things can be used, the meat can be used to make dog food, cat food that we could use locally, we could export. So all these options are on the table, you know.
All right. We have a caller. Caller 11 Voices, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I would like to mount the same platform with Brother Agard with respect to the critical, almost indispensable importance of education in creating an awareness on the part of the public at large of the absolute necessity of agriculture. But I'd like to begin by correcting him in his statement that agriculture is taught in schools. Agriculture is not taught in schools. Actually, what's taught in school is something called agricultural science.
Oh, okay.
And there is a fundamental difference between agricultural science and agriculture, just the same way there is between political science, for example, and politics. As we very well know, the vast majority of persons who get involved in politics have not studied political science, and the vast number of persons who study political science do not actually enter the field of politics. I think the same applies to agricultural science. It is too theory-based, and I think agriculture needs to be far more practical and hands-on. For example, can you imagine in an agricultural science class, students are learning about soils, and the teacher uses the blackboard and chalk to teach the entire lesson from beginning to end about soils, and never once steps outside the classroom to have the students literally examine the different types of soils right there on the school premises. And then I'm not sure how many persons are aware of how important agriculture is to our existence, you know, because apart from air and water, we need food to survive. I can't think of anything else man needs to survive besides air, water, and food. And everything we eat, apart from the very visible fruits and vegetables, everything else we eat actually is derived from the ground, from agriculture. Of course, the Bible is correct when it says that all flesh is grass. Every animal, for those of us who love to eat animals and their flesh, all animals, of course, depend on what is grown from the ground, from the grass, to survive. And so, in eating the animals, we're actually eating the grass. Without grass, animals cannot flourish, and so there will be no animal products, not just animal flesh, but animal products, including cheese and eggs and milk and all of those things, agriculture. And then even the things that we buy in supermarkets, in the tins and in the boxes and so on, essentially, they are all agriculture-derived products. And I think that needs to be emphasized so that persons can begin to appreciate far more clearly and more highly how very important agriculture is to our existence. So that it's not just the ground provisions that we buy and the apples and the strawberries and guavas and papayas, but the very things, even those that we buy, which at first glance seem far removed from agriculture, when we get right down to it, and sometimes we don't have to get very far to find out that these items themselves are the product, directly, most of the time, but certainly in every respect where it is not directly, indirectly derived from agriculture. So I want to join Brother Agard in suggesting, or rather in stating, submitting, that without agriculture, I don't see how we can survive. And so we need to pay far more serious and sober and deliberate attention to agriculture, beginning as he submits with the formal education system, where we should begin to teach far more agriculture and perhaps less agricultural science, far less theory and more action and practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller, for that contribution, and I kind of agree. The education of agriculture definitely has to be practical, because if they don't have any practical experience, how can they implement any of these things? How can we actually grow anything if they don't know how to?
Right.
We have a caller, and I think this will be our last caller before we wrap up. Caller 11 Voices, good afternoon. Hi.
Yeah, good afternoon. You know, we're talking about agriculture, and we're talking about Brazil and meat and chicken and different things like that. Somebody said just now about the cattle, the amount of cattle they got, and goat and sheep running on the road, and none in the market selling for butcher. Oh yeah, that's agriculture, that's not agriculture. That's a joke to agriculture. They bring in the food to sell, and they put them in the market. The food is more higher than the supermarket. Just the front. A pine come all the way from not Australia, South Africa. It's $6 in value mark for the whole pine. And the local pine that go here is $5 a pound or more. So where people on ton, you know, where people on ton. The way how they treat the potato and so on. They got plenty potato knocking dog up and down the plate, but they still want $8 and $6 a pound. You know, for potato, sweet potato. You know, and the whole trouble about it is them killing themselves. I know once ago, as a young man coming up here, the amount of food used to leave from here started from here to Station St. Martin, St. Bart's, and all of them, Guadeloupe, Martinique, and all of them, all the way down to the Virgin Islands, and the British and the U.S. Virgin Islands. No, nothing going on. You just come down the market when you see the Dominica boat come, and the boat from St. Vincent. When they come, you won't like to see the amount of people down there to buy the product. And they come all the way from there. And I sat to the time, nobody in the market buy nothing. They rather to go to the supermarket. So the farmer and them is who killing themselves. Nobody killing them. You could give them as much land as they want. When you're greedy, you're greedy. That's all I could have to say on it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. And we are at the point where we will have to wrap up the show, but I'm going to have Ras Agard give his final thoughts and final call, I guess, concerning the topic of agriculture.
Right. Well, I agree with the caller, both callers, especially this fact about the farmers killing themselves, because that's one of the things we talk about earlier about the mindset of the people. If the mindset don't change, then even if you give them land and money and all these different things, it might just be a waste of time. And this is what the education is important for. And he made very, very good point about a pineapple coming from one place, $6, and then growing it local, $5. You know, so we really need to change our mindset and understand the economics and the benefits of agriculture and, you know, turn to it seriously. Well, I'm very glad to have had this opportunity to come and share with you guys, and hopefully we want to have like a part 2 and go on to a little more in-depth conversation about maybe products and so on that we could actually grow here, process here, and stuff like that, and see how we could move the conversation. And then we would even want to have a part 3 where we talk about the actual educating of our people. So we're looking forward to have more discussion with you guys concerning integrating agriculture at a higher level in our society. But once again, I just want to send out the invitation to you guys for the organic market on Sunday. That's Sunday, May the 2nd at the Gideon Force Organic Farm down there in the Old Road Wingfield Extension area. That's above the virtual high school area there. And there will be signs to direct you directly to where the farm is. We're going to have some great stuff being there. It's all about organic.
All right.
So give thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ras Agard, for joining us this afternoon. You are listening to Voices on WinFM 98.9. Please stay tuned for Working for You.